As soon as they are back in place, I resume my spell casting, channeling all of my imagined magical energy into a single point in front of my hand. A water jet suddenly shoots out of my hand, straight for the vase with tulips, knocking it off the table, making it break into pieces when it hits the ground. "Oh no, my vase," Flower shouts. Then she rushes towards the broken vase on the floor. Yeah, it's a good idea we didn't cast Fireball. That would be awful. That would be hilarious though. If you have you want to watch D&D, there's a channel called Viva la Dirt Lake D&D, and that this is a common thing that like the mage Baradoon does in his adventures, where he like has like a wild surge with his magic and sometimes like drops a fireball on themselves. That is hilarious to me. And that would have been exactly what would have happened here, because I'm imagining the room is really small and like congested. "Okay, I have to admit that I'm impressed," Darren says after he sees me casting my spell. "How did you manage to pull it off? There used to be a time when I was under the illusion that even a normal person could cast magic if he knew every little detail that goes into the process of spell by casting by heart," I say. "You have no idea how many times I've spent on memorizing every particle position, every hand-body movement required, every last bit of theory that went into creating the spells. These are the types of things you never forget." "I'm actually more interested to know why you decided to follow the flow of magic when your spell started to fail instead of trying to correct it," Luna says. I just can't understand the logic behind taking such an action." "Oh," I say, "I only followed the advice of some old hermit who told me that the flow of magic will always return to its intended path as long as my form is correct and my theory is sound. That advice only applies to your case if you're completely certain that you didn't make a single mistake when casting your spell," Luna says. "You're telling me you didn't have the slightest doubt in your mind that some of the millions of the particles that you were meant to control would be led astray?" "Well, I mean, the majority of these millions of particles are following pre-established patterns that are pretty easy to predict as long as you know what to look for," I say. "But to answer your question, no, of course I didn't have any doubts. I used to be so obsessed with these things that I would try out spells in the middle of the day in my backyard while people stared at me like I was some kind of lunatic. Believe me, I'm well past the point where a little mishap like that would be enough to make me doubt myself." Haruka actually gave me a similar answer when I asked her why she followed the flow instead of correcting it long ago when I was still her pupil, Luna says. She also said that she was well past the point where she would still consider the possibility that she could make a mistake while casting a spell. "I think I'm finally beginning to understand why she has become so determined lately in trying to unlock your magical stash." She pauses. "How many other spells do you know by heart?" Luna asks me. "I'm assuming that you've only tested a limited number of spells before you concluded that it was impossible for you to cast magic on the earthen plane." Did he test? It would be funny if he tested out every spell or something, but that's impossible. "Yeah, I learned a few spells from each traditional and non-traditional element, but not much more than that," I say. "Oh, I should probably also be able to cast the airflow that allows me to fly, because I had to create them myself during the fight with the Stillwater skeleton, so I'm familiar enough with them. Hopefully they'll work out there in the ether, even though there's no actual air in this plane. Anyways, as for the other spells, I do know the theory behind them, but I can't say I know the flows well enough to be able to cast them without help." "That's what I thought," Luna says. "Our time is limited, so I suggest that you focus on only one element if you want to actually become semi-competent in a fight. You can learn water magic from me, fire magic from Luna, or air magic from Melindra. Which element would you prefer?" Well, it's going to be difficult to learn fire magic from Flower, because she doesn't really teach very well. We could learn air magic from Melindra, but I think we can already do the movement spell, so I don't see why should we focus on that. I think I'm gonna go with water. I would prefer to go with fire, but Flower is teaching and I don't want to learn from her, so I'm gonna go with water. If I only have time for one, water should be my choice, I say. "Very well," Luna says. "Let us get started then. First of all, I would like, and also I did a water jet, so maybe that would be good. First of all, I would like you to show me the spells you're already familiar with, and we'll see how we'll move forward from there." I spend the next few minutes showing Luna the water spells that I already know how to cast, while she gives me a Give me some tips on to how to improve my stance and my movement so that I can make the spells more effective. And then when we're done with the ones that I know, Luna takes a bit of time to think so that she can figure out that what are the most appropriate spells she can teach me in the limited time that we have at our disposal. You mentioned that you know the theory behind most spells by heart, Luna says. What would, in your opinion, be the spells that you would have the highest chance to learn from me, assuming that we likely have less than an hour left to work with before the rebels remember they were back to their own minds? Less than an hour, huh? I say. If you're really fast, we might be able to cover the first 2 chapters from the beginner's guide to water magic, but no more than that. It is refreshing to see that your expectations are realistic for once, but this is not the answer I was looking for, I'm afraid. Luna says. Why not? I say. You of all people should know that a spell categorized as easy in a manual is not necessarily also easy to learn in practice, Luna says. Even if the spells have very few steps to learn, you may still find yourself getting those steps wrong half of the time. While you're successfully mastered it, do you remember what I mean now? Until you've successfully mastered it, do you understand what I mean now? Yeah, I think I get what you're trying to say, I answer her, but it's much better to have a few spells I can count on at all times than to have many spells that are unreliable, especially during a mage battle where a simple mistake could cost me my life. Do you happen to have a list of spells that would fit my description? I believe I do, Luna says. If you start training immediately, you might actually have a chance to become proficient in a good number of them, depending on your performance. Let's get to it. For about 40 minutes or so, Luna helps me learn the majority of the spells on her list. I can clearly see that she has studied the theory behind these spells from the way she's teaching them. So it's a good idea to learn from her, but she's a serious teacher. She's teaching them to me, and thanks to her clear and concise explanation, I managed to learn a lot more than I would have hoped in such a brief period of time. I guess I made a good call when I chose her as a teacher. So that was a good decision on my part. I only chose the water because I didn't want to make a huge mess, because I didn't want to throw wind all over the place and knock everything over. So I thought in this concise space, water would be good because it only damage a certain part rather than just flood the whole room. All of them still busy practicing, Flower suddenly turns around and she looks intently at one of the room's walls as if she's trying to see through them. This catches the attention of Luna, who now asks her a question. What's wrong? Luna says. Did something happen in the ether? Yeah, Luna says. Looks like Peter and Overseer are both on the move. They'll probably run into each other's. They haven't run into each other yet. They probably will soon. Also, Peter seems to have already found the King of the Underground Soul, and they're currently traveling together. As Luna and Flower are talking, we can hear some grunts in the background from Darren, who is putting a lot of effort in trying to replicate my spellcasting technique, although he had no success with it so far. My other friends tried it too at first, but they eventually gave up and just decided to enjoy the food and beverage served to them by Flower. At the present time, Flower, Luna, and I are the only ones who seem to be able to cast any sorts of spell in this place. So this makes... But one of the things that I was thinking about, that unlike most worlds, this world requires you to make stands, which is something I've read a lot in all these 3 books, but I'm just thinking about it. You have to make a stand, you have to make a posture to unleash a spell, kind of like what's it called? Kind of like, the Avatar, the Airbender, and they have to do movements, martial art movements to do the, the bending. And to be more precise, it would be more how you cast great spells in Skyrim, and your character does this whole hand movement. It's kind of like that, but in this case, it's more you have to do the position as well and shit like that. And when Barry gets access to magic in the the IRL, that's gonna be insane with the way he uses magic. And he's just learning more and more as he goes through shit. It's going to be very interesting. Hopefully it doesn't die before that. I highly doubted the hero of the story would die at this point, but still. Some stories would do that shit. Anyway. There must be very few stories out there where they kill the main character so deep into the story, and then you have to keep the story engaging, because the main character usually one that keeps the engagement grounded. So that's something. In that case, I don't think we can afford to wait any longer. Luna says, if you want to join the battle on the ethereal plane, you should probably do it before it begins. Won't you be coming with us? Flower asks. No, unfortunately, I will need to stay here. If you both leave your mind, there will be nobody left to control your earthen body. You and Barry will have to go out there alone, I'm afraid. Can we just wait another minute? Darren says, I feel like I almost got the ethereal spellcasting figured out for real this time. And once I do, I'll be able to come with you and help with the healing at least. You've been saying that you need just another minute for the past 15 minutes, Eluna tells him. Somehow I doubt that this time is going to be any different either way, on the off chance that you do manage to figure it out. Flower and I are telepathically linked due to our soul fusion, so I can contact her no matter when she is on the ethereal plane. Where she is on the ethereal plane, she will come back to teleport you to the battlefield.